Welcome back. Happy April 21st, 2021. I always find it interesting when committed leftists and Democrats try to analyze the Republican Party, indeed sometimes even offering it advice, as if it wants the Republican Party to succeed. This all comes from a movement and party that simply, plainly put, does not understand us. They try to quiet us and censor us, and when they don't, they ignore us and come up with their own chimerical caricatures of us and what we believe. How do you know of something you never listened to or read? The point is just not to know, of course. The point is to defeat us. And that should never be forgotten. They don't care to understand us. They care to defeat us. Just as truth from them is the first thing they hope everyone else does indeed forget. Thus, today we get Thomas Edsall in the New York Times writing a column titled, "Why Trump is Still Their Guy." Now, before I read it, I should tell you, I've not really said whether I think Donald Trump should run again in 2024, and I'm still not sure. I see some arguments for it. I see some good ones against it. But that all said, nothing in my variegated analysis included or ever gave me a whiff of a thought about the stuff Mr. Edsall wrote today. And I don't think it gives a whiff of an insight into the true thoughts of Mr. Trump's supporters. I certainly don't think any other Trump supporters, past or present, would recognize Mr. Edsall's description of them. He doesn't know us. He doesn't read us. He doesn't listen to us. So how would he be able to write about us with any accuracy? And his party wants nobody else to listen to us as well. Hence, censorship and cancel culture. So there can be no attraction to us or argument against their nostrums. Quite a clever strategy, all that. Mr. Edsall writes, for instance, today, and none of it hit the target because it wasn't even on the right battlefield aimed at the right enemy. Trump's centrality guarantees, Mr. Edsall writes, Trump's centrality guarantees that, quote, large numbers of resentful, truth-denying, conspiracy-minded, anti-democratic, overwhelmingly white voters will continue to find aid and comfort in the Republican Party. In other words, the Trump Republican or Trump voter is overwhelmingly likely to be white, truth-denying, anti-democratic, and conspiracy-minded. We don't have to even get to the pejoratives before we get to the first misstatement of fact in this litany. The white vote that he mentions, especially the white male vote. It's been shrinking for the Republicans, and indeed Joe Biden received so much more of the white male vote this time that it put him over the top. As Andrew Yarrow analyzed it, Biden made an impressive 11 percentage point gain among white college-educated men and a 6 percentage point gain among white non-college-educated men, supposedly Trump's core constituency. This is a big deal in two ways. One, which has been widely noted, is that Trump made surprising gains among non-white Americans. And the second, which has not been extensively examined, is the shift of white men to the former vice president. Another examination by The Guardian finds this. Across racial and ethnic groups, women shifted towards Trump this cycle. In the last election, Trump won white women by a margin of 9 percentage points. This year, he won by 11 percentage points. In 2016, Democrats won Hispanic and Latino women by 44 percentage points. In 2021, they won by 39. Last cycle, Democrats won black women by 90 percentage points. This year, by 81 points. That is, in a year when a black woman was on a major party ticket for the first time in U.S. history. The margin between Democrats and Republicans among black women shifted 9 percentage points towards Donald Trump. Trump saw comparable gains with black and Hispanic men as well. Overall, comparing 2016 and 2020, Trump gained 4 percentage points with African Americans, 3 percentage points with Hispanics and Latinos, and 5 percentage points with Asian Americans. Concluding, also, in fact, virtually the only racial or gender constellation the president did not gain with are the people that are often described wrongfully as his core constituency, white men. So the idea this is a white male party or a party of overwhelmingly white voters, which could have been said numerically of any party given our demographics, is actually least true of the Republican Party today, or at least the least true of Donald Trump and the Republican Party. Good, bad, or indifferent, the Republican Party has never been less white male, at least not in our lifetimes. What is true is how Trump picked up women and minorities, especially when a woman and minority was on the opposite ticket. But Mr. Edsel finds that, I'm sure, all very inconvenient. He certainly wants to bury it as a fact, or write alternative facts, or what we just should call lies. By the way, may I offer another ugly fact that was too ugly for the beautiful theories of the left to allow to be publicized? Remember the reason Joe Biden said he decided to run for president? He said it was in response to Donald Trump's reaction to the Charlottesville riot, or mostly peaceful protests, whatever you want to call it. Remember how Joe Biden would describe the people there, hate-filled, veins bulging, faces twisted? You recall. Well, the entire protest/riot was organized by a white supremacist, of course, a neo-Nazi. His name is Richard Spencer. Want to know who Richard Spencer endorsed for president in 2020? Joe Biden. In any event, the ongoing attempt to forever make us the party of the white male and the ongoing attempt to make the white male the essence of wrongness and hate and racism in our culture is not coincidental. It's the most important point of this whole monologue. But life is inconvenient. And despite all that, Republicans are picking up more and more minority support, and for a reason. It's precisely because we are not, repeat, are not the other things Thomas Edsel says we are: resentful, truth-defying, conspiracy-minded, anti-democratic. What truth have we denied? That Anthony Fauci is infallible? That medical science is a lot of different things, sometimes contradictory, about a novel virus? That mental health is as important as physical health? That depression and substance abuse are serious problems? That suicide is a problem? That challenges to our youth, especially educational and social, are a problem, and radically disrupting the normal lives of children is a worrisome thing? That freedom is important? That riots are to be denounced? Oh no, wait. Those are the truths the left has denied. What of us being anti-democratic? That we want to protect and ensure the sanctity of one man, one vote by demanding, gasp, the same information from citizens to vote that most major corporate buildings require to enter? That every airline, bus, and train requires you to show before you board? Should voting be less protected in a democracy than visiting a mortgage broker or attending a basketball game where you also need to show ID to get your tickets at will call? Anti-democratic because we physically threaten Supreme Court justices? Anti-democratic because we make up slanderous lies about Supreme Court nominees? Anti-democratic because we want to curtail what the media can see and cover and who they can interview? Anti-democratic because we want to censor and fire those who stray from the party line? Oh no. Wait. Those are democratic sanctities the left has violated. Edsel calls us conspiracy-minded. Conspiracy-minded? Do we resort to false claims of fascism and reductio ad Hitlerum over policies and elected officials we don't like? Conspiracy-minded? Did we pay for and invent a hoax about our opponent in Russia to wage an unremitting impeachment war against the president? Conspiracy-minded? Did our Speaker of the House deny the legitimacy of your president's election? Oh no. Wait, those are all conspiracies the Democrats have engaged in. Mr. Edsel gives us this gem in his piece today as well. Quote, a key pillar of Trump's strength is his success in turning the Republican Party into the explicit defender of white hegemony. Close quote. A key pillar? Okay, show it to me. Where? What is it? If it's a key pillar, it must be very evident or written somewhere, or even uttered. There must be a transcript of someone talking about it. When did Donald Trump ever use the word white? I challenge anyone. When not in the context of other colors of people, for lack of a better word, as in white, black, Hispanic, Asian, as in, any other use than in a list. When did he ever use white? He never has. It is a phantom the left has created over Trump and the Republican Party that requires no fact check. You get more people of color voting for Trump, and he is losing white males, but of course, white hegemony is his key pillar. Someone didn't tell the millions of African Americans who voted for Donald Trump, and in increasing numbers, evidently. The left has been trying to throw this sheet around us and wrap us up in it and toss us into the sea to drown us with for a long time. It's not new. Steve Hayward gives us some history. We've done it before. By 1945, Franklin Delano Roosevelt was saying that a Republican return to Congress would represent a victory for the forces of fascism. Nothing subtle about that. Or how about this front page headline from the New York Times, October 25th, 1948. President likens Dewey to Hitler as fascist tool. It begins this way. Quote, a Republican victory on Election Day will bring a fascistic threat to American freedom. I have a long catalog of these statements. Here's a short sampler starting with Barry Goldwater's nomination in 1964. San Francisco Democratic Mayor John Shelley said Republicans had Mein Kampf as their political Bible. Columnist Drew Pearson wrote that the smell of fascism was in the air at the 1964 convention. The Chicago Defender ran this headline, quote, GOP convention 1964 recalls Germany 1933, close quote. Following Newt Gingrich's landslide in 1994, Representative George Miller said, quote, it's a glorious day if you're a fascist, close quote. Charlie Rangel on GOP budget cuts said, quote, Hitler wasn't even talking about doing these things, close quote. Major Owens, quote, there are people who are practicing genocide with a smile. They're worse than Hitler, these Republicans, close quote. Worse than Hitler. That must be the equivalent of turning racism and fascism up to 11. And then, of course, there's Vice President Joe Biden in 2012 saying that Mitt Romney wanted to put black people back in chains. I have a huge file of these, Steve writes. What I don't have are instances, not one, of a Washington Post or New York Times editorial calling out liberals for extreme or divisive rhetoric. That's a one-way ratchet, as we all know. Liberals are free to call Republicans any crazy thing they want, and even to suggest that they are un-American and ought to consider leaving the country. But if a Republican ever talks back, we see liberals get a case of the vapors. As I said, none of this is new, but it doesn't make it right or accurate either. While the left may delight in tossing Edsall's piece around to make themselves feel good and superior, Edsall's piece deserves to be tossed all right, but not around, rather into something that is on the ground, and usually round. I'm Seth Leibson. We'll be right back.